Welcome back to Enlighten Up for episode 39, Intuitive Timing, Dowsing, Michael the Witch Doctor, and Astrology with Lisa Allen. We're joined by another guest this week, and Lisa has some great information to share with us. She has a very interesting skill in particularly specific intuitive timing. So she can use dowsing to help her determine specific timing dates for your needs. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that, how that came about, what exactly dowsing is, and some of our skeptics are going to be asking some timing questions to get their answers. And later on the show, we're going to talk about astrology as well, and why, if you're getting married, you never want to get married during a Mercury retrograde or a Venus retrograde. And at the very end, Michael shares a true story of how he healed himself last weekend and considers himself now a witch doctor. So stay tuned for that one at the end. You definitely don't want to miss it. So let's jump into the episode and find out all of the great information that Lisa has to share with us. Welcome back to Enlighten Up, everyone. I am here with Lisa, Michael, and Brian, and today we are joined by a intuitive timing specialist who has a lot of experience with astrology, dowsing, and she's an herbalist. So let's welcome Lisa Allen to the show. Lisa, so nice to have you here.
I can't wait to get started. Thanks for having me, Nicole. And hello to Lisa, Brian, and Michael.
Hello.
Hi.
So this is going to be fun because we have two Lisas. So we got to figure out...
Lisa 1 and Lisa 2.
You can just call me Michael if you want. That'll help keep it all straight.
All right. Well, Lisa, you have a very interesting skill. Do you want to let our audience know what one of your well-known skills is?
Well, it's kind of funny. I learned astrology and dowsing and some other things from other people, but I learned that I can do timing with a pendulum, and it's really accurate, like scary accurate sometimes. I'll give you two example stories. One was in 2008 in Montana. I was at an herb gathering, and it was a camping event, and our particular group went to go explore some herbs that grow in the mountains. So we were leaving the campsite and we went up to like a waterfalls and other stuff. It was really awesome. And I remembered encountering a family that was, kind of also hiking around, and they had, a couple boys and everything. And I was like, oh, that's fun. We went up and we were at the falls, and on our way back down, there was total panic. One of the boys was missing. I was like, oh no. And they had search and rescue and everything there. So he'd been missing for a little while. And I, some of our people in our group said, hey, I'll stay behind and I'll help you look for him because I know what he looks like. And, because we met them on the way up. And I was just like, oh my goodness, what do I do? I was wondering, should I stay and help? So I got my pendulum out of my pocket and I said, am I supposed to help? It said no, but it wasn't a clear no. So I said, okay, I'm asking the wrong question. I said, am I supposed to physically look for the boy? It said no. Okay. And then I was like, okay, that's odd. So I guess that other people going to find him. It said no. I said, okay, is the boy hurt? No. It was all just totally I'm going, okay, what am I doing? I finally got permission to get the timing that he would return on his own, and he would come to his mother. I worked it out question wise. He would come to his mom, and it would be in exactly 2 hours. And I didn't know how this was happening. Okay. I asked, every minute that this mom is without her son, she is probably going to panic. Can I speed it up? Can I do something? It said no. And I'm like, okay, do I have permission to tell her, even if she doesn't believe me? It said yes. And I said, okay. So I walked down the rest of the way down the hill, and I came to the mom, and I'm like, how do I tell her this, right? I just said, I'm Lisa, and I'm a dowser, and I'm an astrologer, other things, and I just want to tell you that my pendulum had come through, that your son would return to you healthy in 2 hours. That's all I know. And so she looked at her clock, and it was like 3 o'clock. So she was like, okay, 5 o'clock, right? And I went back to the camp. Some of the other people had stayed behind. So I decided to go back. And at 5 o'clock, it was like dinner time. So we were all getting ready for dinner, and the group came back. And they came to me and said, it was at exactly 5 o'clock that he came back. He didn't even know he was lost.
Oh, wow.
I was like, are you kidding me? And they were like, they just want to know how you knew. And I'm like, I didn't. I mean, it was just the information that I was told to give, right? Because I'm just the messenger here, right? I didn't know. Like, I had no idea. That I was just told, like, tell her it'll be 2 hours. Okay. And I did. So that was pretty bone chilling for me, because that never happened.
So when was that? How long have you been doing that since?
Oh, I had been doing dowsing since the 90s, but I never had it at exactly the minute in such a really memorable like situation.
So I'm assuming dowsing has
getting search and rescue, like looking for him, and he just came back. Now I have ideas about what happened, if that's what you want to know, like why he couldn't be found.
I'm just curious about all your how long you've been doing it, but I'm also curious about what is dowsing, because I'm starting to think that it has nothing to do with water.
Okay, actually, that's only one use for dowsing, and that's not the use that I use it for, oddly.
Okay.
If I have water work, I actually refer that out to another dowser that I know. And he actually taught me a lot about things after I had been dowsing for years. And we have our talents, okay? And one of the things that we can do, we can like set like, walls of energy, and we can do other things with it. So I just happen to use mine for timing. For a lot of my clients. And so what happened is my clients over time started being more professional clients that do psychic readings and those types of things. And they have trouble with timing for even their own visions, okay, for themselves. Like they'll get a total download, and they have no idea how to get from A to B and how long it'll take. So they'll call me and say, hey, I had this vision, and we figure out a lot of times what's real and what's symbolic, because sometimes it's mixed, right?
So Lisa,
why is it called dowsing?
Yeah, what exactly, for our audience who knows
really
nothing about dowsing?
I'm sorry?
For our audience who knows nothing about dowsing, they've never heard about it before, can you explain it?
It's like telekinesis, but like with the earth, or really the universe. It's like a telephone system to spirit, and you hold either a device like a rod, like for water, like you guys were talking about. So if you wanted to know where water was, and you hold like a willow or a hazel, or, other people use other kind of wood, and there's a way to hold it. And what happens is it's a bodily sensation that comes through. The tool is only so you can see what is happening. It makes it easier. So you can actually dowse. You can do this particular talent without a pendulum or without a rod, and it'll still work, but you just can't see it as well. So, okay, so for instance, with water, because it has to do with place, you want to know exactly where to drill. It makes sense to have something that you can have right there, so you can see it. Like, okay, here's the spot. Okay, and my friend that does the water dowsing, he doesn't even need to be there. He can actually take a map of the land and dowse with like mini mini rods and mark where to go, how deep to dig, everything. Like it's pretty cool. Yeah. So water witching is another name that they call that, but I don't use it for finding water. In fact, I use dowsing for just about everything else, including going to the grocery store. Should I buy this? Should I get this on sale? Which one should I get? Like if I can't visually figure it out, I just get my pendulum out and say which one.
So sometimes Nicole and Lisa talk about communicating, and actually our last guest that we had, we talked about communicating with your higher self. Is this what that is?
Yes, but it's in a different way than language or visions or hearing. This is actually a sensation in your body. I can't describe it in any other way.
But the pendulum points for you, gives you a yes or no answer.
It's a visual cue. I'll give you an example. And in fact, some people can actually douse better with their body than they can with a pendulum, because the pendulum it gives them too much. They're thinking, oh, I'm swinging it or something like that. Right. Try this instead. Okay. If you want to ask about a yes or no, and that like if you fall forward or going toward the answer, or if you fall backwards, try it from your feet. Whereas if your feet are like where your swinging point is, and then your head would be like the pendulum, if that makes sense. Yeah. Try it that way. And if you fall forward, it usually means yes. And if you fall backward or away from it, it usually means no.
So make sure there's something soft in front of you.
Or behind you, right? Or at this point, you can move your leg, right?
Do it standing on the bed.
Actually, it's probably better on like the ground, okay? Because you want to be grounded, maybe barefooted, even like if you want to make sure that you're connected to the earth.
So do it outside, not in your house.
Yeah, like try it. You could try it anyway, even indoors with sneakers, everything, okay? But if you
Lisa
have
will try it.
Grounding, you may want to try it with your bare feet on dirt, or grass. Your first time. And what you want to do is have it be, and you don't even have to know the question. So let's say that you fold up a piece of paper like as a test. Okay. So you fold up a piece of paper that says sugar in it or something, like something bad for you, right? And you put it in front. Okay. And like you have other pieces of paper, so you don't know which one it is. Okay. And like one of them, you can put like something that's good for you, like vitamin C or something like that. Right. That pretty much something that like we need in our lives. Okay. Water. Okay. Like spring water. Okay. And see if you like fall backwards or go toward it, and then open up the paper so that way you don't even know what is in the paper. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
Try it.
That's an easy experiment.
Yeah. I like that.
So now with timing, with a pendulum, what I do is I like imagine a watch face, kind of. Now before that, I get like whether it is the units, I get like days, weeks, months, or years, and that's the usual. Now when I did the case with the boy, I also added minutes and hours, okay, because I'm sure every minute that lady didn't have her son, it was an eternity, okay.
Lisa, it's just a series of yes and no questions that you ask to get to that point.
You can, but that would take forever. So
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, so what I do is I actually now just give it categories to like narrow it down. Okay, and then I further go. So if you go to everything and yes and no, yes and no, yes and no, like it would take all day, right? Like if you had 20 choices and then you want to go yes and no, rather than just go, okay, swing to the direction of the one that it is, okay, that's easier, right?
Yep.
Okay, so after I get the days, weeks, months, years, or in the case like with the boy, minutes, hours, okay, when it told me 2 hours, what I do is like once the pendulum swings to the direction of like whether it's days, weeks, months, years, then I go into the watch face and I can pretty much like it's usually the 1 through 12 of the watch face. But if it's like, let's say a higher number, you can use the 1 through 60, right? Like as if it was minutes.
Okay, gotcha.
So that you can like instead say that you want to find out what time something happens, which I'm going to give you another example here in a moment, but like you can get the hour and then the minute. Okay, so you can do it that way too. So, but the watch face is kind of a neat way to remember everything, and you just memorize it and you don't have to carry it with you.
Is this something you think everyone has the capacity to do, like with practice?
With practice, yes, but I will say that most people, in my experience, if they don't get it right away, meaning if they don't have a natural wiring for it, they kind of just go, eh. And I find that the people that are not interested in it are the ones that get like all the visions, and like all of that comes really fast for them. So they're like, well, why do I have to deal with this? Because, like I get it this other way. So that's why I'm going to be writing a book. I'm going to be writing actually a book for people so that they can use their talents and get the timing better than how they're getting it now. Unless most of the people that I know that are really psychic and then they get the timing, they get it from the guide or whoever they are like consulting with spirit, but they still don't know how the nature of time works because it's changeable. It's like the weather. Okay, you can predict it and then you can make it like 80% chance, something, and if it's uninterrupted, you get the sun or the rain or whatever it is. But if it's interrupted in any way, it changes, and it might change the timing of the rain or something like that. So timing kind of works like weather a little bit. So it's not like 100%, okay? Although when it did happen that way, it gave me serious bone chills, okay? Like it was really like exactly 5 o'clock. Are you kidding me?
What do you think your success rate is then on average?
I know that it's well into the 90 percentile.
All right.
I mean, meaning, and again, one of the things is making sure you ask the right questions, okay? Then you get the timing. So some of it, again, I was mentioning that some people, they get visions or something that, is like esoteric or an idea, okay? Something that doesn't exist yet, and they want to see when it becomes manifested in 3D, okay, into their experience. Sometimes you got to weed out what is symbolic or what is being released or other things that are in that vision, and then find the real parts of the vision. So you have to like sort through some stuff sometimes with people. So once we get the core thing of what it is, and then they want it to, like, let's say they want it to manifest and they want it as quickly as possible, okay? For instance, a partner, okay? Like maybe their love interest partner, something like that. And they're not meeting anybody yet or anything like that. So they don't even know where they're going to come from, anything. So it's totally like they're single, they stay at home, right? And then their partner, like, and they don't know the way there. They have no idea when. We can douse the parts that are real, okay? Like like let's say, for instance, I had a case where this vision of this person came out of their country, so that they were in another country, and they met their partner there, and the partner, like, it was an actor or something like that. So we figured out from the pendulum that the place actually was real. She needed to be in the place. And it told me that it wasn't going to be met on the internet or anything. It was actually, she was going to physically be there. So we weeded that out. Then we had to figure out when she got to the country. Then we had to figure out when she would meet the partner. And then the person that was in the vision, it was actually, in a way, I mean, because our mind works like this, it was like a placeholder for the actual real partner to come in. And it was a pretty good placeholder in hindsight, because the guy that was the actor had the same initials as the guy that ended up being like the person that she met in in the other country. And then happened to be his friend that turned out to be her partner. So she arrived in September, which that all came in. And then after she got there in September, we figured out that it was by December or so that the partner would come in and be evident to her that it's the partner.
We definitely need to do this for Michael.
No.
Really?
Definitely.
Well, that's an example. Okay. And I do get a lot of when will I meet my partner, particularly from my females. And, then there's other kinds of things, like other kinds of questions.
Well,
when will I improve health after this regimen? How much will my health improve? And I'll do a percentage, that kind of thing, figure out some stuff. So,
well, I think our skeptics have a timing question to see what comes up. Do you want to have some fun with that?
Sure. Do they have some timing needs? I mean, sure. I can demonstrate what I do.
It's really interesting. Lisa and I were talking about this last night, and we started thinking about, there are some obvious things that I'm interested in the timing of, but as we thought about it, deeply, and talked about it, I don't know if I want to know. Some of it's really, important stuff, and I don't know if I'm ready to know the timing. So then we decided to come up with some other things that we know that are future timing for us, but they're not, critical path in our lives. So we're not going to be creeped out or disappointed or whatever by the answer.
Right. Yeah. Kind of like me with the boy when he was found at exactly 5 o'clock. I mean, it gave me chills. I get it. And I had been dowsing since the 90s. Okay. The late 90s. And that was 2008 when that happened.
But Brian, I was thinking of that. Like, even if I cared enough to know when I'm going to meet some, girl or whatever, what if it's not like what if it's not like for another 10 years? Then I could be like twiddling my thumb.
It's that kind of thing.
Meaning you don't know. Now, I'm going to tell you, okay, I should probably preface this. Sometimes it's a process. Okay. So for instance, I actually have another client that I'm thinking of her, and she told me that it was okay to share her case. So she asked me when her partner was coming in, and it said something like 2 years. Okay. And oh man, she was depressed, right? She's like, no, I've already been trying for 5. Like,
oh my gosh.
This isn't gonna work. So I said, okay.
4 years at that point. Come on.
Okay, so nobody, and this is interesting because other psychics told her a couple years too. Okay, so I was on the right track. However, what other psychics may not know is that sometimes you can change the timing. And that's what I told her. I said, let's see if we can change it. Okay, so we narrowed it down, and in the highest good, we got 1.5 years. I also felt internally that she had to go through a process where she met more than one person to get to that place. Okay. And that actually totally happened. It came up 3 people, and she met the first one, and it was like, oh no, this is not a good one. Okay. Like really bad example. Okay. Then she met another one, and he was a real test. And she actually thought that he might be the one. And I'm like, some of the behaviors, there's something, no, I'm not feeling it, but you know what? You need to like find out. So please, like until you are sure that, he's the one or not the one, you should like keep looking into it. So the eclipses just came, okay? And eclipses tend to have the astrological influence of revealing things that you didn't know before because they were hidden from you, okay? So think about in late January, early February, if you had any aha moments and changed your mind about stuff, that might have been the reason. The eclipses do that. So during the eclipse season, she actually learned that he had a bunch of secrets, and he finally came out and told her. And it made her absolutely not happy with him because she was like, you haven't trusted me in all of these months, and now you're telling me? So, and it was odd about the way he did it. And we still felt like after looked into it, and I do tarot and some other things. We looked into it. It's like, you know what? He probably has more secrets. Okay, like he probably does.
Do you ever get scared being like
So
like when?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt your story. Actually, I mean, you could wait till the end. I'm sorry.
That's okay. So, well, I was coughing too. So, well, she said that she was not interested in like having any other horrible surprises like what happened. She was like done. It was over for her. And I said, okay. So now you know. And so she broke it off, and she even had to leave the job because I guess that there was like a job issue. They worked together, and that just kind of made it really difficult for her. But she got away, and yeah, she's actually dating right now. I think that this is the one, and it's interesting because I went back in my timing, and it was about 1.5 years ago when I first started talking to her. I went back in my calendar. I want to tell you that it's free will. You still have free will, so I don't want you to think that this is fated. We navigate between what we call fate and free will all the time, okay? And let me explain what my definition of fate is. Fate to me is your free will that you exercised already, and it's the consequences of that. Does that make sense?
Totally does to me.
So fate, but it's like still kind of already written out. You could have if you knew more information, you have the power to potentially change that. But if you're just in on neutral mode, it would be happening.
There's that too. Yes, meaning if you are unconscious and la 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 la, bam, But everything we do is a decision, even if we are on autopilot, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, it's not advisable to be on autopilot, by the way. Not advisable. Okay, like being awake and aware is gives you tremendous ability to do different decisions in your life. You know what I'm saying? However, in my belief, okay, and I'm just going to say that I believe I've studied astrology for a long time, and I can tell you that a chart has like the soul's decision about experiencing things. And then once we are here and experiencing those things, it's like then we find understanding in those things through our experiences. So while we can't maybe get out of every single thing, okay, that, like once we wake up, we can avoid some things. We may not be able to avoid all the things, but we're not supposed to avoid things. We're supposed to learn from things, right?
Yeah.
Right.
No, our whole experience here on Earth is to move through our experience, like to have our soul experience so that we align more with creator energy, source energy, bring us back to unity.
Exactly. And even when bad things happen, because they do, okay, like some things happen and it's not in our control, like meaning conscious control, okay, we on some level agreed to come in for that experience for the learning, because guess what? Our souls grow when we have experiences.
Yeah, and that's the whole purpose. Yeah. So, Michael, what were you going to ask before?
Oh, I was just thinking, like, the tremendous type of power that you kind of have on influencing people's lives must be scary. Because, like, I could see, like, a client of yours coming and saying, am I with the right person with my husband? And based off of what you might read, you could just sit there and say no, and they end up getting divorced. And that's like a big friggin'
Okay, that would be a terrible thing. I would never do that, by the way. I mean, I'm not going to... I feel absolutely that it's a responsibility, and I take that responsibility really seriously.
So would you just not tell them the answer then, or would you say, no, sorry, I'm not answering?
How do you feel about it? Do you want to stay with him? Then you stay with him. Whether it's the wrong thing or not. And something like that to me is none of my business. Does that make sense?
Well, it does. I'm just thinking like the client probably was like reaching out to you because she wants it. It's her business in a way. She wants your advice. So, I mean, I'd be like, I'd be right there with you. I'd be like, sorry. Even if you knew the answer on the inside, I would feel horrible saying, no, you're not with the right person and causing this divorce or whatever. And
right.
So I would
and
totally
I would
hold
never
back
do
that.
that. Let me tell you why I would never do that. I mean, besides the fact that it does a huge disservice to the person that you're helping.
Mm-hmm.
It does a huge disservice. I would never do that also for my own karma, because taking on responsibility like that, okay, for that person and rendering them, you know, like helpless and that they need me to do everything, that's not the right kind of karma for me. I could pay a big price karmically if I navigated this talent incorrectly. Let's just say that.
That serious of a decision needs to be made by the person themselves, or they wouldn't even feel right about it.
Yeah. Most psychics...
Somebody told me I should get a divorce, so I did. That doesn't sound right.
That's creepy.
You know how many times that happens, Lisa?
I told one of my friends to get a divorce.
Psychics? You mean like from mother-in-laws or something? You should get a divorce? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. That's a different
now,
thing.
on the flip side, Lisa, if I had your power, I'd be like, I'm not sure if I would do well, because I'd be like at a restaurant going, should I order the lamb chops or the steak? I would be like testing everything.
I do that all the time.
Do you really?
Oh my God. Yep. I'll take my, because I have a bracelet. I can pendulum with anything now. I mean, if it's a piece of string with a paper clip, I could make it pendulum. I could even do it with keys in a pinch. But I usually wear a bracelet and I take it off and I'll just, I'll say which one. If I cannot choose. Now, I mean, I try to choose like normal people, okay? Like, like, this sounds good. I look at everything and then I'm like, okay, I'm down to two choices. I cannot figure it out. I take my pendulum off and I'll be like, which one? Now, I will tell you, one time my pendulum actually chose something that I did not even narrow it down to. And I was pleasantly surprised.
Can I hire you as my financial advisor?
Right.
Do you do lottery numbers?
No, that is a different energy. There is other energies involved with lottery. There is a lot of people manipulating energy and manipulating a lot of things. No, I don't do lottery things. However, I will tell you that I do sense that when some people are having good astrological transits with what we call the fifth house or their Jupiter element, okay, with gambling, sometimes you can tell them that they will have a good time gambling in this area, but like as far as choosing numbers and stuff, no. Other people might be able to do that. I've just never been able. I'm not successful with that, and I really think it's because the energies are way too interfered with. We're talking about like millions of people, like pushing energy into stuff.
Yeah.
It's like having like the most giant tug of war ever.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
That totally makes sense to me.
Yeah, that does make sense.
So,
Yeah.
Michael, I'm curious to know what your timing question was.
This may not have an answer.
Coming in the mail.
No, this may not have an answer, but but if you can narrow it down to like maybe a certain year of my life or a certain time of my life, when I will feel like I know my life's purpose.
Oh, okay.
Interesting. Yeah. I'm pleasantly surprised, Michael.
Wow, that was way on the Game of Thrones question.
Well, that was my real question, but you guys didn't want me to answer that.
I still think you should ask it because I want to hear the answer too.
Yeah, but then you have
my pendulum at this moment. If everything is on track, okay, and doesn't change the weather, right, of the time, It says about 2 years.
All right.
Okay.
I can live with that.
You can with that? Okay. Now you may be able to change it, okay, by deciding.
Can I change it?
That's it's medical, but I'll tell you right now that it's 2 years and it's about a 75% chance. So there's a 25% chance that it could shift.
To never.
That's as of today.
Brian.
Now I'm going to be questioning everything I do for the next 2 years.
Now that, okay. So there is that with people that, I learned this the hard way. So I had a client years ago that I remember that he wanted to meet his partner, and I would say, oh, like I will, like pendulum check, and I'm like, wow, looks like, it could be like 3 weeks or something like that, like, wow. And he would be like, okay, cool, 3 weeks. And so what would happen is he would change everything in his life so that he could like meet this person. I didn't know this when I was doing his pendulum work. Okay, so he would be like, okay, I've got to be at yoga today because she's probably there, or I've got to go to the store. So he was totally taking the information and changing everything in his life to work around this thing so that in 3 weeks that would happen. And I didn't know that he was doing this. So he would like call me back and go, it's been 3 weeks. I don't know where she is. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, what are you doing? Like I asked him and he goes, oh, I've been changing this and that and the other. I'm like, oh no, you probably pushed it away. So you can inadvertently change your weather of timing by being overly fearful and pushing it away from you.
Okay, so then I have to ask Lisa, because our audience doesn't know this, but Lisa has given me a timeline on when I'm supposed to meet someone. And you gave this to me 2 weeks ago. Correct?
2 weeks ago.
Yeah. And so because I don't want to say the date on the podcast.
Right, that's fine.
But is there a way to find out if I've changed the timeline for that?
Yes, I can ask and let's see. Yeah, it's still in high percentage. It's still over 90%.
All right, so I haven't changed the okay.
Yeah, you haven't inadvertently changed it. But
stay in bed until that day.
Your life, right? Like, did I mention, remember I was telling you, like, you live your life?
Yeah, no, I have. It's just, it's in the back of my mind, and so.
Yeah, and actually that's okay. It can be on the back burner of your mind. That's totally fine. You have things on the front burners and you're paying attention to those, that's fine.
Yeah,
totally
okay.
Fine. It was the way that the other guy did it that, he like put everything on the front burner and probably turned it up like to 8,000, degrees and wanted it yesterday. And by doing so, one of the things I have to tell you is I learned about impatience is it means that you're not trusting the universe. So when you're not trusting the universe goes, oh, you don't want this, and then doesn't ever deliver it. So impatience can actually push it away further. It does that sometimes.
I like Michael's question so much that I want to ask the same question of myself.
Ah, okay.
See, Lisa? Right. What did I say to you, Lisa?
I don't know. What did you say?
I literally said to you, you never know. Maybe Michael will ask a question that will inspire you to ask a question. That's what I said to you.
Say that.
Cute. So Lisa, do you have partial knowledge of this purpose already?
Yes, I feel it's more of a light worker type purpose, but I haven't really come into my, fully.
Okay, you already have like a 60%, like you have a clue, right?
Yes.
Okay, so now you're wondering when maybe the remaining 40% or like whatever of that purpose, like
when I'll be like, oh yeah, for sure, I know this is what I'm supposed to move forward with. I'm kind of on like sabbatical from my job, and I just don't. Actually, I sort of quit. I'm not going back. Never mind. It's not a sabbatical anymore. So I'm just changing gears, and I'm just wondering when I'm going to really know that this is the direction I want to move in.
Okay, so there's two big steps, something like that. Okay. So the first big step is months. How many months? Okay. So the first big step is like within the next 2 months. Okay. That you'll have like part of it, and then you'll be up to like, let's say a big like 80%. Having a clue? Okay. So 2 months. And then the next piece of that. Okay. Years. Okay. All right. I got you at 2 years also, but it could be a little bit later than 2 years, but you're going to get a bigger piece like at that point. So there's 2 big pieces. I get one in 2 months, and then one like around 2 years, maybe a little more than 2 years.
Okay, thank you.
You're already there, kind of, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
I'm just excited that I have a 35%
really
chance.
not as dramatic with Michael. I think for Michael, it's like I think for you, it's a gradual process, Mike. Like, I don't think that it's like big chunks, like how Lisa is.
I would imagine that, because I have like no clue right now.
And it, you know, like it builds. It's different.
Well, I have a question for a specific. I'm looking for a specific date.
Okay.
But is it okay that it's not me? It's my brother. My brother has been talking about getting married for 2 years now, and the family is getting tired of this ongoing saga.
He has the partner.
Yeah.
They're engaged.
Yeah. They're engaged, but they've been putzing around with a date for a long time. So I'm just curious if you can see the day that they're going to get married.
Okay. Well.
Wait. They haven't set a wedding date at all, but they're engaged?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually done that with my fiance. I have a reason for that. I am working toward getting my dual Irish citizenship. Once I get that, then I need to be a citizen for 3 years. Then I can get married. Then in 3 years, he can apply for Irish citizenship through my marriage. So that's the reason for ours.
But you do realize how ironic that is, that you don't know the date that you're going to get married when you do what you do.
Yeah, meaning that it's about getting my Irish citizenship.
Yeah, but still, isn't that a part of asking the pendulum? Is it's going to factor in the 3 years, right?
Well, I also know that things can change because, again, it's like weather. Okay. I can plan ahead. I could go crazy. Okay, like knowing everything for 5 years. That's like having a calendar that you know every single thing for 5 years.
Could come in handy.
You don't want to manage that much. You know what I mean? You manage like a piece at a time, and then you go, okay, now I know what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? This is like more for planning purposes, or if it's really, really in your energy, like, oh my gosh, I need to know, like, you know, like when I'm moving. I'll give you an example. This is another case that I had. So I had a lady that was trying to figure out if she needed to go for a month-to-month lease or to renew the lease, because it was a significant savings to stay in her lease period instead of going month to month. But if the opportunity came in with the month to month, the lease could be more expensive. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that, like, do I do the renewal for another year because this thing is this far away, or do I do it month to month because it's this far away? So we did it, and it turned out that it was like 6 months in when the actual event was going to happen. Okay, so I told her go month to month because it feels like it's going to be better or easier in some way. Now, it could have been that she could have, I guess, done the lease and then tried to figure out the sublease for the next 6 months. You know, she could have done it that way. But I feel like that was too much a problem for her. Like, it would have been too much for her to handle doing a subleasing, you know, for everything. So I said, go month to month for your renewal and it'll be then. And then she said, well, can I move it up? And I'm like, I don't know. And we pendulum tested it, and it looked like it could be as early as 4 months. And actually, when it finally did happen, it was about 4.5 months. So she did change the timing just from like her intention. And, you know, I mean, we worked out some stuff. We figured out, like, energy wise from tarot cards or other things. It's like, pay attention here, you know, do this or whatever it is, so that it could happen easier. So that's why I do what I do, is because I want to make things easier, not more difficult for people.
So can you tell Brian when his brother is going to be married?
I'm asking if I have permission, because that's like, it's somebody else, right? So,
right.
And I was asking about, okay, it's letting me, okay. Now, as an astrologer, I'd like to advise not to choose periods that have Mercury retrogrades or Venus retrogrades. Just FYI.
To get married?
Correct. Correct. You can find this out on any, you know, astrological calendar. We have the internet now, so you can know when Venus goes retrograde. You can know when Mercury goes retrograde.
Well, that makes sense.
These time periods.
Well, what if I look up when I got married and it was in retrograde? What do I do?
Well, then it was supposed to be. But I will tell you that you probably have some old issues that you revisit with that person. In other words, you're solving maybe some relationship stuff, okay? Like if it's Venus retrograde, maybe it's some kind of contract or something else if it's Mercury retrograde, or that there's communication, like you work really hard on the communications.
Yeah, because when Mercury goes retrograde,
there are themes of why you would choose those dates to get married on a retrograde. And oftentimes they don't, I mean, it's not a permanent relationship. So it's just not my recommendation, okay?
Well, they say that when there's a Mercury retrograde, you should never sign a contract, and marriage is a pretty big contract.
That's a big contract, exactly. So that's why I recommend not on Mercury. When Venus is retrograde, that's the planet of relationship and marriage. So not on a Venus retrograde either. Now, I have heard of people getting married on a Venus retrograde that made their marriage work. They tell me that they had a past life marriage and they remembered it, and you know, it works out. One of them may have a Venus retrograde in their natal chart, so that it's a natural energy for them to, you know. So there's exceptions, okay? But as a general rule, I usually tell people not to pick a Mercury or Venus retrograde. Ideally, if you are going to use astrology, that is not those days are just automatically, we take those out, okay? And then we work with other things, okay? So then we work with the time of day and, you know, some of those types of things. I also, for my own, I realize this isn't, you know, really practical sometimes, but I often will not have a marriage on a Saturday, because Saturn is the ruler of Saturday, and Saturn has a really heavy energy, and it's really, I mean, it's good for, you know, commitment, but it's also very heavy, and it makes it feel like, oh, marriage is a burden. You know, you don't want that feeling. So I usually try to have those couples marry on the Friday evening at sunset, okay, because Friday is ruled by Venus. It's a much nicer day, right? And at sunset, it puts the sun in the 7th house, which is of marriage, right? So that's another kind of trick that
probably explains the 50% divorce rate, since most people get married on a Saturday.
I was thinking about that, because in the old days, I believe that marriages took place on like Wednesdays or Friday, Wednesday. So, I mean, actually, when my marriage date to my husband that passed the veil, bless his heart, was on a Wednesday, and it was really, like, I had astrology then for that particular wedding day, and it worked, and, you know, it worked till death did us part, and we had a great marriage.
I
But
just
it was on a
looked, and
Wednesday.
Brian and I did get married during Mercury retrograde.
Okay,
August
so
26th of 2017.
okay, do either one of you have a Mercury retrograde in your chart?
I don't
Meaning
know.
natal chart. Like if you look up your birthday,
Yeah.
one of you may have a Mercury retrograde, maybe both of you. Okay, so whether that's the case or not, I will say that probably something with Mercury, i.e. communications, all of the things that Mercury represents, it's emphasized in your relationship. You guys are in media, kind of, right?
We what?
You're in media, this show, right? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I can see, I could see how communication is a part of our marriage.
yeah. So, I mean, I'm just saying, it might be a real big theme for you.
We have polar opposite opinions on most things.
Okay. Well, that
He's-
explains a lot.
Brian's my husband. Okay, so Brian's the skeptic. I'm not.
Actually, it's good to be skeptical.
I know.
think it's healthy to be a skeptic, because if you just buy into all of this stuff without like investigating and having kind of a self-proof system, that's a dangerous place. Just having faith and letting everything, it just lets in all of the fake gurus and and predators, honestly.
Okay, back to our marriage question.
Okay.
On the date.
Okay, I got months. How many months? Okay, I get 3 months. Now, let me... Okay, because that seems like... I mean, usually when people plan weddings, they're kind of far off. So, okay, what I pendulumed first was that it was 3 months. However, that seems kind of short. So I thought that I would ask if 3 months was the announcement of, hey guys, we're getting married, it'll be, and then whatever date that they choose, and they're going to announce it in 3 months, or if they're going to actually be married in 3 months. My pendulum said it would be that they are married in 3 months.
I want to just ask a clarification and just make sure I don't know how the energy is read. I want to make sure you're reading my brother's energy and not mine, because I married Lisa 3 months after our first date.
Okay. I'm not tuning in on that.
Okay.
This is in 3 months from now. So it's not 3 months ago, or, you know what I mean?
Right.
So
And is there a specific day?
No, I didn't get, I got no. I just got 3 months. So maybe they're thinking about it and like they haven't chosen the day.
Great.
Okay, but 3 months and that's what and okay, can I choose a day? Like, meaning no, it says no, I can't do it. So that tells me also that it's movable again. So let's see what percentage it is in 3 months. Yeah, it's about 85% chance. So there's a 15% chance that they're going to still wiggle it around a little bit. So it might be a little earlier, a little later, but 3 months is what I'll do, and at an 85% chance.
That will surprise everyone.
Okay. Well, yeah. Are you going to keep that in your pocket and then see how?
Oh, yeah, I'm not going to tell them. I mean, they're thinking they were saying 2019, so 3 months would be really surprising to everybody. But I mean, they could just decide to run off, I guess.
Maybe someone's going to get
just like his brother.
Exactly.
And maybe someone's going to get pregnant.
or something. Yeah, there might be a different condition about what happens. And also, I know people that they got married on paper for some reason, that like, maybe insurance or, other things. Sure. And then they have the wedding ceremony way separately. So like they'll do a marriage like where they're going to be married and here's the marriage license. And like, let's say it's in 3 months. And then they decide, well, we're going to have the ceremony in the summer.
Right. Well, we'll see what happens.
It could
Not
be
so
something
far
like
off.
that.
What's Nicole's percentage on who she's potentially meeting pretty soon?
It's really high 90s.
Ooh, look at you, Nikki.
I'm not sharing the day.
No, so just so everyone on the audience knows, by the time this episode gets aired, we should know, and so I will add a post-production interview with Lisa to verify if this has happened or not.
Oh, cool.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I ask one more question?
Not at all.
So I want to know when Brian and I are going to move. We potentially feel like we're going to move from this house that we currently live in, but we haven't really made any plans towards that. And I want to know if you get an answer to a moving date.
Okay, I got yes, you're going to move. It's months. Hang on. Okay, 4 months is when I see it.
Wow.
Now let's just double check because I want to make sure that the question, one of the things about doing dowsing is you got to make sure that the questions are proper. That's like 90% of what this is, okay?
Right.
I always get the right answer. I don't always interpret it properly because of questions. So what I want to do is make sure that they decide to move in 4 months, they find the place that they want to move in 4 months, or they actually physically move in 4 months. That's what I need to know. So you find the place in 4 months, and then you'll move, okay, like 1 more month. I'm getting something like that. So
Wow.
find the place in 4 months. Yes, it says yes.
Wow.
Awesome. So Lisa, I wanted to ask you an astrology question and get your take on it. Like if you have any insight to this.
Okay.
So, when we're incarnated into our physical bodies and we evolve through the stages of the precession of the equinox, and this progression takes us through the 12 layers of the archetypal forces, and I understand that these hold instructions for our universal human body structure, as well as like DNA transmission. As the sun moves through the constellations and we receive frequency exchanges of different instruction sets for our human body, how does that affect our DNA activation and spiritual ascension?
Okay. So, I mean, that's a heavy duty question because
I didn't understand any of it.
as the science that it is by itself doesn't really discuss, I mean, other than the precessions and some of the things, the scientific parts it discusses. Okay. One of the things that I learned about astrology is that things come in cycles rather than linear time. Okay. But the cycle doesn't come back to the exact place that it was. It's like an octave higher. Like, so it's like a spiral more than it's like a circle.
Okay.
That keeps repeating.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I'm guessing that there's the DNA moment, right?
Yeah,
like
I was just going to say that.
Spiral.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah. So, and then again, we have like collective consciousness. There's other things happening, but I will say that I believe that it is not a mistake that people are born, you know, that there's a reason for all of them, even if we don't understand the reason. Okay, there's always a reason for like why they chose that family, you know, that birth chart, like everything. There's a reason like for why they did that. And then they, again, part of like when we decide to incarnate into a body and then have like, you know, our contracts, etc., that we have, living them out is so that we understand our contracts. Okay, so that's what we decide. And then sometimes there's some events that we might, you know, agree to that cannot be changed. Okay, and by the way, even as a timing dowsing peep, I cannot change things. Okay, like that are absolutely like you cannot change certain things. Like, and I will not try because I don't want to mess up the life lesson that ends up like propelling you into the whole purpose of your life. You see, I won't interfere with that.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, but as far as astrology is concerned, it's an excellent system of self-understanding to make better decisions, knowing your strengths and the things that you need to work on.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I really love about it. And then when the things are, let's say the transit is a really heavy transit, okay, you know that ahead of time, and it's kind of like when you know it's going to rain, you can't make it sunny, but you can grab your umbrella and your rain boots and make it a little bit better. You see what I'm saying?
Totally. Well,
yeah.
And speaking of like the science of astrology, from what I understand, I mean, in nowadays it's termed like a pseudoscience, but back in
yeah, I use air quotes when you say science.
Yeah, however, Brian, astrology, like back in, in like past times before modernization, it was actually considered the science for advanced scholars in academic circles.
Sure.
And so, from what I understand, so I'm interested to hear your take on this, Lisa, but it's due to, now this is going to go a little bit on the weird side, but due to the...
That should stop us.
Due to the negative alien agenda infiltration, towards us adopting more of a scientific method, that is why we've moved away from astrology as being a high academic way of determining things.
Well, and I'm guessing that meaning science as we define science today,
yes.
Which is strictly 3D result.
Yes.
After trying. So here's what I want to say about scientific method. Each time you do an experiment in astrology, you have a different chart for when you start each experiment, so you can never actually repeat the experiment. Okay, think about this. Scientific method says you have to do all of these experiments and do it over and over again to get the same result.
Under the same conditions.
Under the same conditions. But in astrology, the conditions are never identical because the planets are always moving. Everything's always moving. What you can do, and this is where, and I'm guessing that I'm identifying science here in the esoteric sense, because now we have quantum physics and other things that are actually showing that there's things that you can't see, and they're actually proving that now.
Mm-hmm.
That only happened recently, though. and we haven't figured out how to apply that to all of the other science yet, because you can't have the ripple effect into like every other theory for a long time, because it just doesn't work like that, right?
Yeah.
Also, one of the things that has been to me disappointing about science is that, now I have to say that I really, really appreciate and like true science theory, okay, of actually observation and, creating hypotheses and what have you from observation, okay? And then when you witness something different, then you need to change the hypothesis. So true science, I love. I think it's amazing. What I'm not such a fan of is oh, wow, this didn't fit into this science theory, but I need my grant or whatever it is that I need. So I need to manipulate my figures in order to so science to me is becoming its own belief system.
That's
because of special interests, just like religion.
Yeah, I totally see that. It happens all the time.
And I'm not saying, that all science, that would be like saying all Christians are, bad people or something. That's ridiculous. In fact, most of the people that I know that are Christians are pretty good people. But the organization, has its own self-interest. So they're going to make things serve its self-interest. I see that science did that at some level. And
We've
All you
talked
have
about
to
this.
do is look at all of the quote science that sells our current medicines right now. They're
Right.
terribly manipulated.
We've spoken about this on previous podcasts numerous times.
Yeah. So I just want to say that I give a woohoo to real science. I give a to science.
Pseudoscience.
And let me ask, from what I understand, you do dream interpretations as well. Is that correct?
Not really. Because I have other friends that I refer to usually when it's dream interpretation, but sometimes I can pendulum check whether something is real, whether something is a symbol of something, or whether it's a processing of letting go of something. And sometimes that helps my, like if it's a dream or a vision, sometimes that helps refine it enough for a client. But if they really need to know what something means, I refer it out.
Nicole, do you want to ask about your dream last night? If it was a symbol of something, or?
I hope it was a symbol because it was really dark.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Do you want to do that, Lisa?
Scorpio. Not, a shock right now. Today, the moon is in Sagittarius. But this morning, and, for the last 2 days or so, we had the moon in Scorpio, which does do a lot of releasing of things.
Well, that's when it happened 2 nights ago.
Yeah. Okay.
Basically,
Nice.
I saw myself on a rooftop of a building setting up three machine guns on pods on a stand to practice, to basically do a run through of what I'm interpreting was a mass shooting. And I was setting it up for someone, and I felt like I was almost like the patsy, and I was testing it against a brick wall. But instead of bullets coming out, it was energy in the form of white. It was like almost, it wasn't paint, but it had left white energy markings on the brick. I don't know how else to describe it. And it just went like hundreds of rounds of shooting. And then I started disassembling the guns and putting them away in this black bag. And I went to a gun range with Michael for the first time and picked up a gun, and it was just like the most awkward experience for me. I don't even know why I would have this dream, because just so then I started packing up the guns in a black bag, and I had to hide them under towels so that if anyone opened the bag, it was just really bizarre.
Yeah, that's and I'm getting that you're switching a little bit back and forth between like how it would be in 3D, like that would be like, oh my God, right? Like in 3D, that would be really bad.
Yeah.
But I'm getting that you were having somewhere between a releasing dream and a symbolic dream. There was something like maybe the guns represented something. Maybe the white energy represented something. Maybe the and it is kind of like, it is like the light side has the warfare. There is kind of like that. So maybe what it was, and I'm just, this is kind of what I was pulling, was that maybe this was like you were setting off like good light energy and like it firing off like into the darkness.
You know what?
The wall might be like something that is either projecting something or preventing, a barrier to like get that out somewhere, or so there might be some things that are, like, I don't really know how to describe it. I think that this would probably be better done by a, true dream interpreter. That's not one of my things on my resume, but
yeah,
I can't help but notice that, it does seem rather symbolic, but at the same time, kind of literal too.
Yeah.
I do think that there is, a quote, psychic war, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And sometimes we do fight this stuff in our dreams. You know what I'm saying? It's, I do get that there is that. So, that might be better for a different person.
Yeah, I got an interpretation from one of my friends who's psychic, and he said it was like I was sending or shooting truth and information out to the public, and sometimes being hit by truth can be interesting for some.
Oh, yeah. Well, I felt like the wall that you were hitting it, like that was like the resistance of the truth. You know what I'm saying? Like it was keeping it back.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, it's so that it only gets so far. Or it could be the truth is on the wall, like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's for everybody to see too. So, I mean, there's a lot of references that could
that's
be with.
interesting.
But
yeah, that's very interesting.
But yeah, I thought it was interesting that white energy came out of the guns.
Yeah.
I was like, well,
that was very
sign.
Yeah, that was
might
very
be
distinct.
You had some warfare, and so.
Okay. Well, I think for our audience, and I know I'm going to try it, that experiment with the body dowsing, with putting pieces of paper with,
Yes.
an answer on them of some sort, just to find out.
Or something. It doesn't have to be like what I gave you an example of. It could be, like it could be like, what's your favorite color? And then you write down your favorite color on one of the pieces of paper, and then a color you hate on the other piece of paper. And then, like, and maybe like mix in, a couple of other colors just to see how it works, and then mix them up and pick one of the papers and put it down in front of you and see and it could be on a table in front of you. Okay. And if you lean forward, like, and you can just relax your knees. Like, they don't have to be fully straight. You relax your body and say, okay, how do I feel about that paper? And then if you start leaning toward it, then it's a yes. And if you start leaning back, and you can catch your feet and say, oh, like put your foot in front, so that you don't fall down, or behind you so that you don't fall back. But you're going to feel it like one way or the other if you are tuned in. And most people actually can do it that way. And then that is the sensation that my fingers have with the pendulum. Yeah. Okay, so once you try that body thing and what you feel in your feet, that's what I feel in my arm. Okay?
Sorry, speaking of body knowing and feeling, Michael, you healed yourself last weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still testing it out.
That's great.
Well,
what was your criteria?
Google.
I was having a lot of pain when I work out, in my lower abdomen, kind of like what I thought was a hernia pain. I even called Nicole because she's kind of knows these kind of things. So I'm like, do you think it's a hernia? And she's like, yeah, it sounds like it. So God, this sounds so hard for me to say. Damn it. I use like this. Nicole's always told me that imagining light and kind of manipulating like a light in like a ball-like form and concentrating it in certain areas of what you life, or in this case, healing. So I literally did that, and I spent like 5-10 minutes doing that, just because I kind of even at the time I didn't even believe it. I mean, even now I'm like, did it really work? Did it not?
Maybe you were just gassy.
Yeah, I'm like, you know what? I'll give it a try. Just like what we're talking about with the paper and the colors and all that stuff. And so, like, literally about 24 hours later, I was working out again, and there was no pain. And I've had this pain for like maybe about 3.5-4 weeks now, until it was gone. And so, of course, I freaked out and told, Nicole and the gang, what I magically did. But
that's awesome.
After the dust settles, like, did it just happen to be a coincidence?
Oh
Because
my
that's
God.
what always keeps going in my head.
Did it come back, the pain?
No, not necessarily. No.
Well, here's how you can tell if it's a coincidence. Send the energy to make the pain come back, and if you can bring it back again, now you're on to something.
Just turn
I don't know if that
like
would work, but you know what? He could probably just get a new one like that, because I got that he actually released like a trauma or something, whether it's from this life or a past life or ancestors that had it he inherited. It's something like that. That's what I got.
I don't think I'm at the level of releasing those type of traumas yet.
Yeah, but that's what she's picking up.
I'm just saying that's what it felt like to me, like when you were talking about it, like whatever the cause. So let me ask you this. Did you know what caused the hernia to begin with, or did it just
I would imagine it was just because I've been working out quite a bit these past a few years, but like,
okay.
I do a lot of ab exercises and lower ab exercises as well. And even my dad told me like a couple years ago that he had hernia issues, so he couldn't even do that.
Ding. Ancestors. Okay, because I was getting that it's like, wow, you did not injure yourself, and here you suddenly had this thing.
Yeah.
Okay, I knew it was like, this feels like you didn't injure yourself. This is like you're processing something else. And then you said your dad did. I'm like, oh my God, there it is. So you might be, just FYI, you may have empathed your father's hernia in your body, taken it on from him because you love your father, right? And you may have, like, well-meaningly help, trying to help by understanding. And that's what empathy does. It understands through feeling, okay? And you may have physically then sensed that as the hernia. And then you processed it out with the light, which, by the way, that's a great way to handle it.
Very interesting. I mean, Nicole and Lisa hate it when I say coincidence, but at the end of the day, it's like that's what my skeptical mind always thinks after the excitement and dust settles of what happened.
This happens, you do it again, and it won't be a coincidence. I agree. One time could be a fluke, but when you do it again, okay, it won't be a fluke. And you do it again, and it won't be a fluke. And I mean, once you do it 3 times, you're probably on a roll, and you probably do it 50 times. You see, 100 times, 1,000 times.
I'll let everybody know if it happens again for sure.
And I'm gonna let the audience know.
Like knee injury, you know what I'm saying? It might be something else. So, but when you do the light again and all of that, then you will know that you're an empath.
Interesting.
That's what that is. That's a psychic ability. That's just like when a psychic gets a vision or something like that. You may get the feeling instead, which communicates instantly.
Just for the record, Lynn that's with me, she is rolling her eyes at me being a psychic. I don't think she buys it yet.
It's a psychic ability. A lot of people are empaths, actually, and they don't recognize it.
Yeah. And for the audience, I wanted just to read Michael's text to us when this happened.
I did not give you permission to do this.
Yeah, I can. So he said, "Dude, Nikki, I healed myself. No more hernia pain. I totally did the witch doctor stuff on me, and my pain is gone."
And I think that you're an empath. That's just my feeling, and I think that you took it from your dad and you were processing it through. So that's what I think. Now,
okay.
You'll know if you have another pain that you didn't create. So it'd be one thing if you fell on your, or like you fell on your stomach or something. You see what I'm saying? That would be caused by you. But if it just shows up.
Hey, Lynn, can you grab a wrench and hit him in the hand really hard?
That would be different. That's not empathy. Oh. Unless you want to be empathing his hurt from the wrench. I mean, is that the experiment here?
No, for him to heal himself.
Or maybe we should be like, Lisa, hit Brian with a wrench so Michael can empath that.
And I'm not even sure if I would try.
Oh,
yeah.
nice.
We don't necessarily need that.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Lisa.
He's an empath. He'll have plenty of other opportunities to see how this works.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have to, give him new opportunities. opportunities.
Well, Lisa, thank you so much for being on the show. I'm going to leave all your information in the show notes, but can you just let our audience know if they're interested in connecting with you? Maybe they have some questions about intuitive timing or anything like that. How can they reach you?
Sure, they can go to intuitivetiming.com or astroherbalist.com. I own both domain names right now, and they can go to my contact page there and send me an email. They can find me on, the Facebook, Twitter, all of that kind of stuff. And I wanted to let you guys know that the timing book I just signed a book contract recently, and I need to write it now. For Llewellyn Worldwide, I've been working with them for about a decade doing articles for their annuals, and so this is my actually first book, so it's kind of exciting.
Oh,
congratulations.
It will probably be out in 2019 on timing.
Oh, great. So,
yeah,
we'll definitely have you back on when that comes out.
And thanks for answering all our questions today.
Yeah, and like I said, I won't remember, okay? So you have to write those down.
Well, it's going to be on the recording.
Remember.
Well, and I figured that you guys have the emotional investment of wanting to remember. You know what I'm saying? So
yes.
Yeah.
Don't count on me remembering. I probably won't, because I do this for too many people, and it would be like I'd have, thousands of stoves with back burners and just stuff like that. No, I can't do it.
Yeah. Awesome. So. Okay, well, thanks so much. And to our audience, if you need any more information about us, you can head on over to our website, enLIGHTenUP.us. And we have gotten some submissions for our audience members to come on the show. So we're looking forward to releasing an episode in the near future of having some of you come on and share your experiences and ask us questions. And so that'll be really interesting. We're looking forward to that. And if you still would like to be on the show, please send in to our email info@enlightenup.us and just let us know why you'd like to come on and maybe what kind of questions you'd want to ask, and we'll try and get you on. So thanks everyone, and thank you, Lisa, for being on. This was very fun, and we're looking forward to future predictions.
Thank you very much.
All right,
Thank
bye.
you.
Bye.